The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Nerd withdrawal symptoms, people. Nerd withdrawal symptoms. Let's do something about that. So I have a bit of a predicament on my hands. Number one, the Great Sift is never going to happen unless I get off my ass and start doing it. Number two, I want to tinker with stuff, darn it. Heck with the Great Sift. In any event, here's an Onkyo satellite. Swapped out the clipses for Onkyos, or for the Onkyo sats that came with the home theater in a box due to higher watts per channel and maybe not as bright sound in the different acoustics of this room. Okay. I just wanted to remember that these things still worked. Okay? You know, variety is the spice of life. Give the clipses a rest from time to time, darn it. Plus, they're not a good impedance match for the system, and they're also not exactly the best match in terms of maximum wattage per channel. It would be easier to blow the Klipsch satellites than it would be to blow these things. So, anyways, yeah, I'm listening to a lot of stuff with high dynamic range, so these things are less likely to cook, so I'm using them. Und now, mein Freunds, we must continue screwing around with the technology. Not the best impersonation, and it fell far short of being like Arnold the Sub there. That was horrible. Alright, enough with the screwy stuff with the impressions here. Yeah, we need to hook these speakers up and verify they all work. 2 channels at a time with the crappy netbook thingy, just so I can know that both sets of sats and the center channel work before getting them ready to go to the computer shop. Let's reapply power and hook them up. The Hackjob speakers we'll deal with later. But I want to clear off the table, darn it. I've got me some tinkering to do. That means concluding our business with the Z5500 digitals, darn it. Right, so, first thing we're going to do is we're not going to put these back when we're done with them. We're just going to cycle through them so you can see the disappearing number of speakers on top, indicative of cycling through these things. So, Lake Erie, please, both channels. Threw in some EQ this time, because why not? The sad part is, this is a bigger woofer than the one in my other system. I mean, it's kind of different having a subwoofer right in front of your face. Huh. Alright, enough rattling the floorboards. Next pair of speakers. Rear right, rear left, and the only thing that's left is the center channel. Let's play it again. I think we got some working speakers here. I don't know, it's a larger woofer than the one in my main setup. Should I really get rid of it? Right. Center channel. With the left one still hooked up for balance. I think we have a working set of speakers here. Hi, neighbor. You see this? It's called a tabletop. This is what it looks like when you don't have anything on the table. Let's put something on the table now. So when it comes to potential tinker projects, I'm really tossing around the idea of so-called sleeper equipment, inspired by those folks who were telling me that the Dellosaurus is a sleeper computer waiting to happen. take an old piece of crap and then put something new inside of it so it looks old, but it isn't. So I've mentioned these speaker sets before. These are my childhood speakers that literally used them as bookshelf speakers, shoved them in the bookshelf and whatnot, but the insulation on the wiring was actually liquefying after a couple of decades, so it was Radio Shack crap back in the 90s, and now it definitely needs some tender loving care to be anything ever again. So I just basically cut the cords on these things because the insulation was melting anyways. Not melting, but having a chemical reaction that kind of liquefied it. Those I would eventually like to do something with some parts from Parts Express, rewire them up and make them, give them a whole new lease on, well, life, I don't know. What I'd like to tinker with, though, is this set of Logitech X-140s from several years ago. As you can see, the foam has gone totally yellow around the edges of the speakers, so I don't even know if these are real woofers either. It might be just something that flaps with the bass from the air from these things, or the air from the bass in these things. So what I'd like to do is see if, number one, that's even a real speaker. But obviously there's some room to put something in here, so I know that so-called woofers actually can get pretty small. But yeah, my whole cynicism towards woofers is something to talk about later. I'm curious if I can somehow make these things two-way and put something better in them than what Logitech originally put in them. Now, these Logitech X-140s are basically Target specials from years and years ago. The big thing with these is I tend to use these with my bedroom TV setup, so to speak, where I watch YouTube videos on a laptop or Netflix, so I usually just lay them down and they get okay sound that way. I'm just wondering, how much better can I make these things sound if I take out the speakers, because they're obviously rotting around the edges if the foam's yellowing after several years, and I don't know what's going on there. The wiring is also intermittent as well. You'll get some noise and whatnot, and you'll get some channels dying and things like that from the pathetic little mini plug being bent too much, so I don't know if I want to rewire that, but at the very least, let's give these things one last shot before dismantling them. You see where I went over with a Sharpie over the light so it wouldn't keep me awake. Something like that. Yeah. So, they do actually still work. These are actually the better of the two pairs of these because the amplifier doesn't make a... Oh, wait a minute. No power. Oh, cool. That's dead too. Huh. I don't have the wrong... Nope, that's the power plug. Nope, that's the power plug. Okay, so the wires finished breaking. Cool. I got a lot of things to fix with these. Cool, let's take them apart. The way into these things is to take the fronts off of the flathead screwdriver. Not bad if I do say so myself, just a nice cheap design and whatnot. Clean those off. Yeah, what I saw in the speaker is actually caked on dust and crap from the old place. I don't know how this much dust got on this speaker, but absolutely nothing on this one. Or it could be the case there was, more shuffling around near this one, because I'd be reaching over to adjust the volume, and this one would just sit there, but I think we can conclude at this point, plus I used a teardown guide to figure out how these came apart. This is not a real speaker. This is just a little flapper thingy that vibrates with the air from this thing. So there is the potential, I think, maybe, to make these things go two-way with the right size speakers. Just gotta get some sizing on these things in order to replace them. But yeah, definitely yellowed foam around the edges. Maybe I can get something with rubber stuff on the side instead of foam. Not have to worry about foam rot. Yeah, look at this. What kind of speaker lets you do this with it without... That's not even a speaker. That's gotta be a little flapper thingy for the air from the bass. Predictable. They went nuts with the hot glue at the factory. And fake speaker. That is a flapper. Basically, they make this as airtight as possible so that the air from the bass flaps this thing and it's like, hey, look, a woofer. The problem is, we might have to do some mod work with something in order to cut that plastic in order to fit a real woofer in there, but it looks like from what they did with where the real speaker was, it looks like it's doable. And there's our speaker, our real speaker right there. Let's take that off, and we have more than enough room. We can just cut those. We can just cut these things. There's more than enough room for these things to resolder them afterwards, so especially now they're not mashed in there with hot glue anymore. So Let's see if there are any opportunities to maybe buzz that down, cut that down, grind that down or something to look more like that, and fit a second speaker in there somehow to make these actually two-way with real speakers. Don't know if the amp will have the wattage to support it, but we'll figure something out. We're out. And what an absolutely cheesy speaker this was. Look at that. The foam is almost plastic after several years of use. Yeah, that would have eventually foam rotted and just blew. So, it still works though. No indication of the impedance anywhere from the looks of it. Not seeing an ohm count or anything like that. Oh, we can look up a similar size. Question is, what is that size? Alright, done some measuring here. Looks like this is about a 3-ish. Probably see if we can mount 2 3s in this thing with a little bit of Dremel work to make some space for a larger magnet. Then again, this thing had quite a magnet to begin with. Oh yeah, I'm sorry for being such a noob earlier. This flapper thingy is actually a passive radiator. Hey, it's a fake speaker, okay? You don't need to settle for that crap. Well, we could always get some stuff from Parts Express and see if we can make these sound better. Or better yet, put in some mid-ranges with these things. You know, try a mid-range only, and then see how much better they get with just mid-ranges, and then try and solder in some other stuff. And yeah, maybe go parallel or series or what have you. I don't know. Well, right. Let's go take a look at some things on Parts Express. Well, I already found out why these things weren't getting any power earlier. Basically, it was exactly what I've read about in some articles about these things. The cheap asses who built these things or designed these things pretty much made them susceptible to mechanical shock by using a solderless lug. Now, it might have been the case where they didn't want to have an exposed electrical connection or something like that, but there was no soldering whatsoever on either the AC or the DC side of any of this. So, this left them susceptible to mechanical failure. Now all I have to do is just plug the thing in and apply power. See here? Even with everything in this crappy condition, just push the button, the light comes on. The amp is working again. So, yeah, that's what the problem was with these things. Solderless lugs. A little bit of real soldering, even if I put a solderless lug back on or some electrical tape, and these things will be back in business. Now, about that speaker thing. There we go, Parts Express. Yay! Basically the e-tailing answer to Radio Shack as far as I'm concerned. Celebrating their 30th anniversary this year. They opened in '86. Interesting. They must have had a catalog beforehand. Well, yeah, I have received the Parts Express catalog a few times before, a long time ago. Anyways, yeah, I'm looking at some full-range speakers here. Because of the physics that's involved, I've compared these full-range speakers at 3 inches to the woofers at 3 inches, and the frequency response, we're talking about like a 20 hertz difference here. 100 hertz minimum versus 80 hertz minimum, so, ooh, 20 hertz. Gotta love them laws of physics. But anyways, I'm wondering what aftermarket speakers will sound like in those cabinets versus actually still have a stock set of those speakers that are still working. So we'll keep the flappers for now and just get some replacement mid-ranges. We'll figure out the flapper thing later. I gotta stop calling them flappers too at some point. Right, yeah, so, right, speakers first. Looks like we have ourselves some Hackjob computer speakers in the works here. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.